My name is Marco Tabo, and you are watching The Big Issue. In the last couple of years, banditry has gone from bad to worse in Nigeria. The level of insecurity in the country has become a serious concern as people in some locations can no longer go about their normal businesses. The gruesome acts of the bandits leaves many wondering what has gone wrong. Why has it become difficult to put an end to banditry in Nigeria? Now, the job of every government is to protect the lives and properties of its people at all costs. Now, seeing the day-to-day mayhem unleashed on Nigerians by bandits, many are quick to question the commitment of government to curbing insecurity. Fight against bandits. Is the federal government sincere? That's our topic for debate right here as Dr. Augustine Agugua is lecturer and research consultant at the University of Lagos, and he is here to say that in the fight against bandits, lacks sincerity and commitment on the part of government. Come over. Thank you for joining us. Let's welcome him. It's good to have you.
My pleasure.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
All right, on the other hand, Bala Zakka is a social critic and holds that the federal government has no blame as she has demonstrated commitment in fighting banditry. Bala Zakka, we can have you now. It's good to have you.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, this is the moment, and right now we're about to begin. As it is, it's something that we all have been looking forward to, and this particular issue, I believe, will be broken down to the barest minimum with our guests here. But Bala, I would start with you first. You are saying the government holds no blame, that they have done their best. So far, they are, ahead in fighting banditry. How do you begin?
The government is not ahead in fighting banditry, but the government has demonstrated enough commitment. The government has demonstrated a high degree of sincerity. And to that extent, it doesn't mean that the government does not have shortcomings here and there, but in terms of sincerity, the government has demonstrated enough sincerity to show that everything happening across insecurity is not something that the government appreciates, is not something that lifts the image of the government, and it's not something that will make the government to have a seat in the Committee of Nations. But in terms of sincerity, the government has demonstrated high degree of sincerity. In terms of capacity, the government probably needs to do more. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, Dr. Augustine, you heard him. He says the government in high capacity has demonstrated sincerity in the fight against banditry. You have a contrary opinion to that. How do you begin?
Definitely, and I'm very pleased with the equivocation he actually demonstrated in his pontifications. Yeah. The truth about it is that sincerity without demonstrable acts of engagement and outcomes as it has to do with positive results now puts that sense of sincerity in doubt, principally from point of view of capacity. Now, when we are looking at insecurity, insecurity goes beyond issues of mayhem, killings, and all whatnot. Security also has to do with people's sense of economic well-being, people's sense of safety, people's sense of having the capacity to move from one part of the country to the other, to actually relate with others without any fear of favor from any point of view. But you and I are very, very clear on the facts that where it has to do with, call it physical confrontation and capacity to actually defend its citizens, Nigeria has that capacity. Now, it is not out of place for us to actually rate Nigeria's physical prowess from point of view of internal, dispositions. But in terms of manifest statistics, yes, Nigeria is rated the 42nd most powerful nation militarily in the world. The implication is that behind Egypt, behind Algeria, and somehow behind South Africa, Nigeria ranks as the 4th most powerful nation militarily. Nigeria has had a very strong record of demonstrating feats in military prowess in and across Africa. In West Africa, it is #1 nation in terms of procuring and even defending nations against internal insurrections. Why can't we do that? My feeling and belief is that Nigeria has the capacity, but the political will seems to be very, very weak. And that's marks of insincerity as we go forth in this discussion.
Thank you very much. Now, Bala Zakka, he actually outlined the prowess of Nigeria's strength as he has rolled out the quality of Nigerian military, saying, look, this military is equipped enough to do this job. But from the look of things, it doesn't seem like it's sincere with its purpose. And that's why we are seeing what we're seeing, hearing what we're hearing. I mean, you have a contrary opinion to that.
Well, he rolled out the capacity of the military of before, probably not the military of today. And this is the best way I want to approach it. Let us start by defining insecurity. Insecurity, by my definition, is the absence of preventive, detective, and compensating or corrective mechanisms. And when you lack that or you have deficiency, insecurity will set in. When there is insecurity, of course, from your prologue, you will experience banditry, you will experience criminality, and you will experience terrorism. No federal government of any nation will want to be associated with either criminalism, terrorism, or banditry, because these three caused something like this to a nation. Banditry, criminalism, or terrorism, first of all, starts by trying to render a country lawless. They will then want to render the leaders of that country powerless and irrelevant. No federal government will want to be put in that kind of shoe. That is one. What are the characteristics of a failed state? A failed state is one where the effect of insecurity have been able to rear their heads because of poverty. The citizens lack security, there is violence, and their territorial boundaries or integrity is threatened. I don't want to believe that there is any country whose federal government will want something like that to happen. And all that simply means is this. You can have the sincerity to achieve an objective. Capacity could be a factor. A given example. I may want to read a given course in a higher institution, but do I have the ability? I may have the sincerity, I want to read course A or course B, but do I have the ability? Do I have the capacity? So there are two different things. We live today in a country where everybody knows that for investors, especially when you talk about investors that are external investors, before they go into a country, there are three things they look for. One is insecurity. The second one, they check the level of corruption in that country. Then the third is their profitability.
Okay, now that you've cited that, from taking the cue from what he said earlier on,
Yes.
he rolled out the qualities of Nigeria fighting, insurgency and banditry in other countries. We happen to be one of the most, highly profiled country when it comes to donating troops to helping other African nations solve their crisis, and we've been doing remarkably well. This is an internal crisis. Why are we finding it difficult, to fight internal crisis? Why is it taking so long for the internal crisis to be checkmated when we have recorded successes outside of Nigeria?
The answer is very simple. It's just like you saying you can go out, feed everybody, give food, give scholarships, give medical support, but your household is groaning.
Is that sincerity of purpose?
It's not sincerity, and that's what I'm saying. There is no way you will go and render, just like the saying, charity begins at home.
I'm sure.
If you have anything that you will want to achieve well, you will start internally. And that was why I said, probably before it was possible.
So are you concurring with his point now that...
I am not, I'm concurring on the aspect of capacity, but on the aspect of sincerity, I am not concurring, because when it comes to sincerity, the first thing is to be honest to yourself before carrying out any activity. So and that was why I said, we may lack in terms of capacity. It's also possible that as we speak today, Somehow, somewhere, we have square pegs in round holes. Okay. But what are the intentions? Even on the side of nature, the first thing is, man, be truthful to yourself.
All right, let's hold it. You heard him.
Very, very well.
Now, how do you approach his point of view now? Because
well, the truth about it is that, to tell you the truth, my friend Bala is somebody I respect in terms of cerebral dexterity. He has a sense of understanding of the issues at stake. But today, I don't envy his position. Because, sincerely speaking, and we are not talking from point of view of sincerity, here is a man seated in a position to defend what I see as the indefensible. And that can also be picked from some of the points he's making. This is a man that feels for the nation. This is a man that has a sense of patriotism on what it takes to actually move this nation forward. And here, we are putting him in a position to discuss something which every person in the street feels is contrary to what he's railing out. Principally because it's just like when he made mention of sincere attitude. I will align that with a statement credited to Bishop Cook. I think that's the Bishop of Sokoto, right? Right. He made mention of the fact that being sincere and being good is not enough to make a good leader. That he has this understanding and conviction that our president, Buhari, has good intentions, but lacks the sincerity of what it takes to be a good leader. And that is the dilemma all of us are caught up in. To the extent that today, if you want me to reel out statistics of what has been, adumbrated as spirals of killings in this country for the past 3 years, it makes people to shudder. I was listening to a statement credited to one bishop from Abia State, one Bishop Okwafo. His argument, which is very, very instructive for all of us here, is this. Mr. President, the people killing Nigerians in southern Kaduna for the past 3 years, are they spirits? The implication is that there is no way we can talk about confrontation with bandits without looking at their capacity. Last week, as I was looking at our military index vis-a-vis other world powers, I was able to come across the fact that recently Nigeria has one of the most feared cadre of Air Force personnel in terms of what they regard as the Panthers. So, what are these people doing in the barracks? If Mr. President feels that he has a desire, he has a conviction, he has a duty, and he has a compulsion to confront evil. This is a president. Let me also, because what is happening today and what we are discussing, to tell you the truth, is both procedural and it's also structural. Let me take it from point of view of the fact that even if some of us did not support him in the past, no person will deny the fact that this is a man who came on the, what you might call, one of the strongest emotions and support of the Nigerian people, including the people we are confronting today. That is why in the year 2012, under, I think, the different past Jonathan's administration, these people had the will to say that if any person should stand in on their behalf, they pointed at our president, Muhammadu Buhari. That's a sign of confidence. The external communities, the external world, had so much confidence in him that what they deprived the past governments, they opened up to him. This is a man that has so much goodwill. As far as I'm concerned, some people might look at it negatively in recent times. I looked at it positively, that if there is nothing else, this is what this man will leverage on and actually liberate Nigeria from the shackles of banditry. But you and I, whether we like it or not today, this thing has taken a turn for what you may regard as a breach of confidence.
All right.
Every Nigerian is bothered to the extent that the present governor of Borno State, no person will say that that governor has anything against the present government because he is part and parcel of it. His comment spoke volumes. What did he say? That the military, the government stationed to fight banditry in Borno State. The man made it very clear that they are sabotaging the fight against
the insurgency.
banditry.
Fantastic.
There is this saying that action is judged according to intention.
Sure.
What that simply means is this. It may be my intention to chase a bee or a fly on your face, as we've seen. But in the process of trying to hit the bee, I can slap you and you fall. What you will judge me by will be my intention. What was my intention? My intention was to chase the bee from your face. Yeah. As I speak to you today, there is no point hiding the fact that Nigeria and Nigerians are not being consulted today when there are issues of internal security or external security. Right. We all know that when people are looking for economic guidance, unlike those days, they visit Nigeria, they consult Nigerians. Today, people don't care. When people want to fix or come up with policies about their health, their education, and other things, they don't consult Nigerians. If a country today wants to set up a refinery, is Nigeria the right place to come and visit or consult for guidance? We all know this. But is it the intention, is it the wish of Nigerian leaders that nobody will consult them today when they want to set up curricula, when they want to do something about health, when they want to do something probably about refinery or security? No leader will be happy that that value he or she used to control is no longer there.
No leader will be happy that that value is no longer there. Well, the debate is still on, but we do have to go on the break right now. When we return, we will continue with this subject matter. If you're just joining us, this is still the big issue. Welcome back, of course. If you're just joining us, this is still the big issue. Now, is the federal government sincere with her fight against banditry? Of course, Bala Zakka was actually trying to establish a point before we went on that break. But I want to ask you this very sincere question. You know, every Nigerian who understands how this thing has been, going on for a while, would say that during the Goodluck Jonathan administration, some felt because the president at that time didn't have military experience. So it was okay to understand that his fight against insurgency at that time wasn't taking so much, making so much progress, because Correct. They would want to link his background to the fact that he doesn't have that military prowess. But Buhari is different because he was in our army, he was a general. And you will expect that a man of his capacity understands war formations. He understands territorial, movement tactics. But he is there now, and this problem is still as it is. Now, how would you really want to judge his intention when it's clear that his experience is not even playing a part in making this easy?
The answer is also very straightforward, and I can explain it. There is one mistake a lot of people do when they try to think a specialist can end up being a very good leader. No. There is a difference between a specialist and a generalist. Those who end up becoming good leaders are not necessarily the specialist. They are not necessarily the most intelligent. They are people who have the coordinating power and dexterity.
Okay, where lies the potential, the potential backing of experience is the best teacher?
Experience is the best teacher if you are going to concentrate on a given line of thought. And that is it. And like I said, let me probably come up with a simple example. If you go to a given corporate setting, you can have somebody in engineering department doing well. Human resources department doing well, probably in charge of security doing well, somebody in charge of accounts doing well. But when you make them the overall leader, it becomes a problem. That is when sometimes the weaknesses are exposed. And when we talk about weaknesses like that, all we are talking is this. A leader must be somebody that will have the coordinating ability and power. And in the context of federal government, it is the entire picture that the world is trying to look at. Let me give you a given example. When you talk about food security today, it is very clear that Nigeria is going to suffer from imminent food insecurity. And the reason is because when you talk about the flank of that part of Nigeria, like the northeast, northwest, north central, or the middle belt, we know that they are predominantly farmers. A given example is this. Assuming one man can cultivate probably 10 ridges, but because of insecurity today, you have probably 100 men who cannot go to farm. That means you are going to lose 100 times 10 ridges of harvest. Will any federal government be happy? No federal government will be happy about that. You live today in a country where you know that you have deficiency in terms of health issues, educational issues, social things that you need to provide. But all the monies you are generating are being diverted to take care of security or to stamp down insecurity. Which federal government will be happy about that? We are talking about insincerity here. No government will sincerely sit down and watch this thing, waning that government's credibility, destroying the government's image, and making the government to be a toothless bulldog in the Committee of Nations, and that government will be happy.
I'll come back to you. He said no government will be comfortable sitting down and satisfied with what's going on, because obviously they are sincere to a large extent. No government will open their eyes and watch these things happen. How do you address this one?
No government will open its eyes and watch things happen. Facts, they say, speak for themselves. And circumstances belie intentions that do not manifest in real or concrete actions. We have reeled out the credentials of our president, Muhammadu Buhari. We have addressed the fact that, yes, what we are facing today is both procedural and what? Structural. Procedural from point of view of the antecedents of Mr. President. I'll give you one or two instances. Let's take it from point of view of his personal disposition. I liked that's his allusion to the fact that sometimes, who is a consultant, is a consultant. Some people describe or define consultants as people who are hired to teach others what they are not experts in. Perhaps Jonathan played that role, even though without being a military man, his commanders were equal to the task of, to an extent, because like I said, we were also bashing him then, of to an extent confronting Boko Haram tit for tat. They say that ambition is made of what we call external stuff, as it has to do with issues of sincerity here. At a point when I was really supporting him in 2011, I told people that these are some of the things they will see, fire for fire. In the year 1983, this was a commander, GOC, based at Jos. Chadian soldiers infiltrated Nigerian territory. He didn't wait for clearance to move his troops into action, drove Chadians out, and even moved into the Chadian territory. These were the things I looked at, the activities of the man. In 2011, when I was pontificating for him, people felt I had any stake in him. If those thoughts were in him, and I still believe that they are in him, what stops him from manifesting those sparks? He has the capacity. We are not looking at the fact that Nigeria does not have, you made mention of the fact that that was Nigeria of before. When I was giving you statistics, I was giving you statistics based on reports released just last 2 weeks, as it has to do with Nigeria's military capacity.
All right.
Well, the answer also is very straightforward. You see, when you talk about African politics, and Nigerian politics in particular, there is nothing the opposition will not say about you to bring you down.
All right. Now, talking about opposition, now recently, in the June 12 broadcast, the president spoke to the effect that the people in IDP camps had returned home, but the convoy of the governor of Borno State was attacked en route to a trip to an IDP camp. Is this sincerity?
As far as I'm concerned, that was false. But false also in this context is different from information you were being fed with and you wanted to talk. You see, when you talk sincerity of heart is different from information that has been given to somebody to use in making a broadcast or to talk.
So are you saying a governor, in the capacity of a governor, would have insufficient intelligence to have said a thing like that? Because obviously he revealed something he has been hearing. Obviously he has confirmed, because I don't think a governor will want to come out openly to sabotage his own administration.
And probably
cause a problem, you know?
Something like that will happen in situation. This is the situation, case where you can have that. You see, the fact that somebody you delegated responsibilities to go out and carry a given assignment fails does not mean that is a representation of what you wanted or what you want when you were trying to delegate that responsibility.
Okay, now that you've established that,
yes,
we understand that in other climes, even abroad in Western world,
yes,
the moment they are not doing well in their capacity, in the position they are given, they resign. You know, it is so common. It is so common with people outside of the African circle.
I totally agree with you.
But with what is going on right
yes,
now, why is it that either the chief of army staff is refusing to back down,
yes,
and even the president, who is an experienced military commander back in the day, is not understanding that, look, the man leading this troop obviously is not doing a good job. Let me retire him. Let me put someone else. Why is it taking so much time for that to happen?
Well, that is
if there's really sincerity.
As far as I'm concerned, if I tell you that I'm also happy with what is happening, you know, the overstay moments of probably the service chiefs, I will be lying to you. Because when you talk about career progression, I will appreciate it if the younger ones are given the opportunity to occupy the spaces they are supposed to occupy. I will be very happy if somebody is due to get to the next rank is given an opportunity. But sincerity of purpose in curbing or holding or stamping out insecurity is a completely different thing. Let me also put this thing clearly. As we speak today, there are, because we're talking about federal government this time around, and we're talking about federal government insincerity. You will know it, he will know it, and I know it. So many lawmakers cannot go to their villages.
Yeah.
Right? Ministers cannot go to their villages. Governors cannot go to their villages. And I speak to you, probably even Mr. President cannot walk freely in his own village. At their level there, they are the representative of government, governance, and federal government. Are they happy about that? If they have an alternative that will make their people to sleep and have peace, won't they do that? I will be so surprised with the way we see dead bodies. And remember, we are in the days of social media. Why anybody who tells me that investors are coming to Nigeria today, I will tell you is not correct. The reason is because we see dead bodies, we see mass graves, we see banditry, we see all kinds of things. No federal government, whether you came in through coup or through a democratic election, as a federal government will be happy that that is the picture about you, your leadership, and your country that is being portrayed to the international community.
So based on that, you are establishing that the sincerity is still there, but they are not just happy with the developments around it.
Not only that they are not happy, because if you have the capacity and you are not happy, you will fix that thing that is causing you problems.
We're about to fix the situation right now, because right about now, we are going for another break. And when we come back, the conversation is not over, because we have to connect with our audience on the Zoom line for them to come across with their questions as well. And of course, the back and forth will still continue. If you're just joining us, this is still the big issue. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is still the big issue. As a matter of fact, we are still on this conversation, and the question is straightforward. Is the federal government sincere with the fight against banditry? We have our online guests ready to roll out their questions and contributions as well. And let's quickly entertain the first. Mr. Chilaka is standing by. Mr. Chilaka, good to have you join us quickly. Let's have your question and contributions as you want it rolled out.
Problem with the issue of security in Nigeria is that we're focused on the cost rather the effects. You know, everybody's talking about Boko Haram, but we should ask ourselves, how did we get to this bad state of insecurity in this country? It is because we have not taken time to find the effect it has on our lives and the economy. I'll tell you one thing, which is one bitter truth. I would say that this government has not done well when it comes to the issue of securing the land. They have not done well at all. You cannot fight insurgents in secret. The government needs to be open. The government needs to come out openly and tell Nigerians the truth. Don't be telling us, oh, today we have wiped them out. Tomorrow we have wiped them out. Next tomorrow we have wiped them out. Yet they are causing harm, killing people day in, day out. And then the question I want to ask is, what is the constitutional role of Mr. President in defending the lives and properties of Nigerians?
All right. That question should be for Zakka, I guess. What is the constitutional role of the president in fighting and securing the life of Nigerians?
Well, the constitutional role, just like the president of any country, is the first thing to provide security for the citizens of the country and to protect the security or the territorial security and integrity of a country. And this is what I want to say also. People can only be useful when they are alive. Citizens can only contribute when they are alive. Investments can only come in when a country has peace. A country will only be consulted and be valued and her citizens valued if that country has peace and security. Any country that does not have peace and security will lose investors, will lose credible partners, will lose integrity even amongst the Committee of Nations. And I don't think there is any federal government or leader that will be happy for something like that to happen. Let me just give a given example with nature. Before I give that example, I want to say I'm not religiously dogmatic. I'm an easygoing person. It's just like when you talk about the human body, the soul, and the spirit. When people hear about death, what actually happens is this. The body gets to a point where the soul becomes so inconvenienced, and the soul has to leave the body and become a spirit. We see it. If somebody is involved in an accident, there is a way that accident will become so severe. I'm telling you, the soul will not be comfortable. The soul will pull out and become a spirit. If somebody is bedeviled by a very serious sickness, it will get to a point, even doctors, they won't only tell the person that the soul is tired, but what actually happened, they will tell you that this person is about to go. The only reason why they say that is because the body is no longer accommodating enough for that soul and the soul will leave. Ordinarily, the owner of that body, if he or she has their way, that person will do everything to maintain the soul. As far as I am concerned, the federal government of Nigeria is losing in terms of investment, is losing in terms of credibility, is losing in virtually every aspect, is even losing in terms of the economy. If the government has her way, I don't think the government will allow all these losses to be incurred.
All right. Well, okay, fine, as you've established that. I think let's quickly get the next Mr. Perfect. Are you online quickly? Can you just quickly roll out your question? Let's have you.
I believe that it takes two to tango. Now, for two people to be fighting, there must have been a cause. If I am crying as a child, that means I want something for my parents, which means the people that is causing this security issue actually want something. Now, can't the federal government sit with these people instead of them killing the innocent one, instead of wasting people's lives? And secondly, in this country, we find out that they tell us we have freedom of speech, but they can't assure us freedom after speech without paying 5 million naira. Now, what can the government tell us that once they are done with security? What I'm saying is, if they can solve this security issue, what will they use to campaign next year? Isn't it that they are actually keeping mute on this security issue so that they can use it as a campaign in the next election?
Most of the time, people struggle to get to the top. And when they get to the top, that is when they will discover that 1,001 things are there that will make the seat very, very hot for them. But when they are on that seat, believe me, at that time, they will want to sincerely lead the people. Even if those leaders came in by way of coups or they are dictators. What is likely to be lacking in situations like that has to do with probably capacity. Then also, probably before they got there, mistakenly they put the wrong pegs in the wrong holes. That I will always accept. But every leader will want to enjoy some level of peace. And the only way that leader can enjoy peace is for the leader to come out open. Because insincerity will never help a leader. Insincerity will never help a country. Insincerity will never help an economy. I will want to accept that I can be sincere, but I may lack the capacity. I can be sincere, I may lack the ability. I can be sincere, I may lack the coordinating power. At such situation or in such situation, it is my duty to make sure I open my arms, if possible, to run an all-inclusive family or an all-inclusive corporation or an all-inclusive government.
Okay.
But it is in my own interest to be sincere, and I will prefer to be sincere and enjoy the peace of my family, my corporation, or my country as a leader.
Okay, having established that, if you're saying the president is sincere but might not have the capacity, is that not a signal for him to resign?
Well, when it comes to resignation and how people get to power, unfortunately, I've never been in politics. I'm not one. I don't probably hope to go into that. I will appreciate that when somebody needs help, you cry out for help. There is no shame in crying out for help. If you need the help, cry for help. But if you know you lack capacity, if you know you are requiring or you need help and you shut the door against help, all that will happen is you will meet your Waterloo, whether as a political leader or as a leader of a corporation or as even a family leader. It bestows that trust or that hope or that commitment on you. If you know you need help, ask for help. There is no shame in asking for help.
No shame in asking for help.
It's either you get it or you don't get it, but ask for help.
All right, Dr. Augustine, I want to put this to you. Now, the Chief of Staff, Tuka actually said, despite the media propaganda across the country, they have never been better since 2014. This was him talking. He also said that officers and men are sacrificing their lives to ensure Boko Haram terrorists are defeated. He said, what we have now are remnants of Boko Haram. That is according to the Chief of Army Staff.
That is very laughable. And here you have a Chief of Army Staff being lambasted by his subordinates. Here we have a Chief of Army Staff under whose very auspices a junior military officer shot a senior military officer.
While you are proceeding with that, he also said that the propaganda is not helping their mission. That sometimes people come online, say all manner of sorts, expose them, that there are some things they want to keep covered, but because of the propaganda and the continual bashing of the military, their antics and their tactics are exposed to the enemy.
Well,
how do you address that?
No, the point is, I just want to actually reel out these facts before I actually address that statement. And here you have a Chief of Army Staff under whose regime, how many weeks ago, 356 Nigerian soldiers resigned out of disinterest, out of disillusionment, and out of a seeming, sense of abandonment by those who are ahead of them. Now, to tell you the truth, when you are talking about sincerity of purpose and frankness of thought, I liked the parts told by my friend here when he said you might be sincere and you lack the capacity. The part of honor in such a situation to define sincerity properly is for that person to say, I cannot do this. So what happens? Somebody who can do it better than you will come on board. It was on that basis we felt
You were able.
Jonathan lacked the capacity to secure lives and property for Nigerians. It was on that basis the present regime came on board on the promises of actually doing that which the previous regime couldn't do. And if after the first 4 years, they have demonstrated what you might regard as palpable incapacity to address those issues, the best thing for them is not just to wait to depart of honor by way of resignation. They shouldn't even have come to the polls again to come and do what? Ask for our votes.
In a nutshell, what you're saying is, with all of this you have rolled out, it should not even get to a point of discussion. The person in charge should resign.
That is the truth. It's time we start actually equating ourselves as human beings across board. Not necessarily that if it is in the Western world, what makes the Western world man better than yourself as you're handling this, your program? As a matter of fact, where I teach, there are certain issues that will be thrown to me when I get to such a class. After looking at it, I can handle it. But if I feel that a colleague of mine has a better competence, I will go to him and say, look, there is this topic I want you to come and address my students on.
You hand it over.
Of course.
Fantastic. You were saying something now, and you've established it. So, but recently, we see that the military, the Air Force especially, have rolled out videos, showing us how they have bombarded the hideouts of these people. And at least they are doing everything in their capacity to show Nigerians that they are doing a great deal of work in tackling, this whole terrorism of a thing. And I mean, isn't that sincerity in a part?
There is what we call proactive acts of inaction, right? No matter how much wood you put in the fire, if what you are cooking is not well done, it's a useless effort. Knowledge is not a prerequisite for acquisition of materials. Old philosophers will tell you that any knowledge not used for political action that is aimed at getting a result is a wasted knowledge. All right? What Nigerians are bothered about is the fact that the latest report released last Monday showed that in the past 3 years, they took one of the segments. They said there are several dimensions. Boko Haram, Islamic State for West African Province, then Fulani Herdsmen, and Ansaru. These things have been happening in recurrent trends. And we are talking about capacity. Yesterday, I read about Nigerian Navy rolling out 8 warships, and 2 attack helicopters to go and secure Niger Delta from point of view of banditry. So, what stops us from amassing and mobilizing such forces?
All right. Before we...
And tackle Goza Forest.
All right. Tessie, I think your network is back on now.
The federal government are not being sincere with the issue of insurgency in our nation. I liked it when Bala said the government is losing out on investment. I liked it when he said if they know what to do to fix it, they should have done it. And since the in thing here is securing lives and property.
Sister Tessie, I totally agree with you. But this is also something that I would generally want to say. As we speak today, many of us heard recently, right, that Nigeria has now turned to some Asian countries looking for loans to the point where we are beginning to feel even we are most likely to lose or cede our sovereignty. What does that portend? That simply tells you that certain things are not going well about our internal economies. And the only reason why things are not going well is because internally, our economy is not doing as we expect. We are not getting foreign direct investment. And because of that, as a country, we have to go out to borrow. And we notice that even the conditions may or may not be in our favor.
All right, Bala.
I will prefer a situation where my leaders will do something about the first index of governance, which is security, such that Nigerians can be rich, Nigerians can be doing well to the point where our government or the federal government will prefer to borrow internally from Nigerians to fund the economy or to take care of the economy than to even go to some people who we think now may even want to take over our country some days.
But having said all of this, look, you have established a situation where The solution is even in your analysis. Now, if you are saying the federal government would not even like any of these things to happen to the country,
yes,
why are they not extending, their cry for help to foreign countries who have the military capacity to end this once and for all, since it's becoming so tough to handle an internal crisis? This is an internal crisis.
Yes.
This is not a crisis from an African country bedeviling this country. This is right inside Nigeria.
And that was why at the beginning of this discussion, I told my colleague that it was all the peace and the economic growth that we were experiencing was in the Nigeria of before. When I say it's the Nigeria of, I'm not saying it's the Nigeria of 100 years, but some years ago, things started going off the cliff and down the valley. And if things started going off the cliff, down the valley, will a leader or a government or a chief executive or a father be happy that it was or a king be happy that it was during his reign that the kingdom went to into the valley? My answer has been no. That leader or king or chief executive may be sincere, but other things like probably capacity, lack of collaboration and other things could be the reasons for the failure, which I accept. But sincerity is likely to be that person's number one index to succeed or objective.
All right, well, sincerity could be the objective, but the capacity and collaborations and every other thing that would make it work just might not be present. But what is present is the fact that we are still right here on the big issue. And as a matter of fact, we'll be back to have our final thoughts from our guests. If you're just joining us, you've missed out a lot, but hopefully the final takes just might be your taking. This is still the big issue. Welcome back, of course. This is still the big issue. It is big indeed, and this subject matter is very huge, as a matter of fact. I know you're out there, you're very uneasy. You know, you're not comfortable. Definitely, we have to talk about it. We always tell you, this is where it happens. The big issues are discussed here. But before we go, let's have the final takes from our guest. I will start first with Dr. Augustine Agugua. Now, you have established your point, you came with the stats, you came ready, obviously, but now Nigerians want to hear your final take on this issue. Yeah. What is your final take? Very short.
Summarily, let me just buttress this argument about insincerity with one instance, then I will sum up. We are talking about the bring back our girls issue. Then all of a sudden, this Dapchi incident occurred. And in Dapchi incident, if all of us were very, very sensitive to this issue of sincerity and frankness of thought, we had the ability of the government to negotiate with the abductors of those girls. And right inside the metropolis of Maiduguri, the abductors of the Dapchi girls brought our citizens back. They were taking selfies with the citizens of Maiduguri metropolis. And our government had the capacity, had the temerity and audacity to tell us that one person was held back because she refused to convert to Islam. That summarizes the concept of sincerity. I'm not a military general. I'm not trained in the art of martial professions. But the truth about it is that if I am or was in the president's position, I have an arrangement with you, definitely say, I'm going to keep to the dictates of our agreement. But until you release the remaining person, whatever agreement I have with you, I'm not going to do what? Fulfill it, honor it. Yeah. That will have been a very big factor of sincerity on the part of our president. But summarily, like I said, the most important thing is that beyond any reasonable doubt, individually convinced on what I came here to say, is the fact that our government of today, when I say government, it has to do with the gamut of people who surround our president, not just the president, has not been very, very sincere to Nigerians, simply because we don't have what I may describe as instrumental-minded leaders. We don't have a developmental set of elites composing our political elite today. We have a set of human beings who are so self-centered and eccentric in their dispositions towards leadership, that what happens to the masses is not their business. What matters to them most is self-aggrandizement, anchored on what I may regard as material inducements. And on this ground, I don't think I have any apology. Thank you for the audience.
Thank you very much, Mr. Augustine, Dr. Augustine Agugua. All right, Bala Zakka, how do you end? How do you summarize this motion that you have held on to?
I will summarize on not really sad, but an emotional tune. And this is the way I want to put it. As fathers, we don't sleep well. As mothers, we don't have sound sleep. As counselors, I've been talking to many people. Counselors don't sleep well at night. Local government chairmen don't sleep well at night. Governors don't sleep well at night. Senators, House of Reps members, state legislators don't sleep well at night. Ministers don't sleep well at night. And I want to believe the president, and in this case, the federal government, does not sleep well at night. We think they sleep, but honestly, they are deeply troubled. And because they are deeply troubled, they will do everything within the capacity of their knowledge. And I will expect within available resources to make sure they have peace in this country. They have political peace, they have health peace, they have social peace, and they have economic peace, so that they will sleep like other human beings, and in this case, other leaders. My advice is this: whatever needs mechanisms that need to be deployed should be deployed. If it means putting square pegs in square holes, please let that be done. If it means looking for external partners within Nigeria in the context of national unity, let that be done. So that we will occupy our place in the Committee of Nations and still remain the continental hub of the continent of Africa.
Thank you very much, Bala Zakka. Of course, in our usual fashion, Bala, we should have hugged or shake hands, but of course the pandemic will not give us that time to do that.
What about if I do like this?
Well, you can drop here whenever.
No worries.
Yes, fantastic.
No worries.
Fantastic. All right.
Very, very obvious.
Thank you very much. Of course, this is the much we can take on the show today. Of course, you can follow the conversation on our social media handles at TVC Connect, and of course, my handle is at Mark Otabo, Instagram and Twitter. Of course, remember, if the issue is not big enough, it has no business here. Till we come your way again. Of course, this will always remain the big issue.